It means when I'm not talking, it's actually silent. Is that good or is it bad? You decide. And maybe you don't care, you should just choose the whatever option then. Yeah, I mean, it basically means when I'm not talking, you're not hearing the constant background ambience. Okay, looks like some kind of mix of good or neutral, so that's fine. Okay, on to the deck teachings. So welcome to another deck teachings standard mode, and it is to my surprise that I've never covered Reno Jackson Warlock. I looked back at the archives and I found that I did hand lock, and I probably thought RenoLock was close enough in game style that I chose not to run it. And in truth, it is very similar in the way it plays to hand lock. This particular version I have here was made by Fr0zen. It's a RenoLock, and it also has N'Zoth. I've played a number of RenoLocks with not that much success. However, Fr0zen hit #1 legend during the month of June. The basics of this matchup are that it is absolutely insane against warriors. They just can't stand the life tap with very valuable minions that you'll be playing. They have no burst, so once you Reno Jackson, which you'll draw most likely, you'll pretty much just win against warriors after drawing an extra 5 to 10 cards on them thanks to life tap. Whereas this deck is in no rush and it's in no hurry, so however much health the opponent has doesn't matter. One of the big innovations that Fr0zen had on RenoLock was cutting the Faceless Manipulator and the Leroy Jenkins combo from this deck. So with traditional RenoLock, and I feel I should say this just because at another point in the meta, this will probably become the more popular version. You would play Leroy Jenkins, you would play Leroy Jenkins, 5 mana, 6 damage. You would play Faceless Manipulator. No, you would play Power Overwhelming on Leroy Jenkins. So that's a total of 6 mana. You have a 10-2 charger, 10-6 charger, and you play Faceless Manipulator, which is 11 mana combo, deal 20 damage. Sometimes you would Dark Peddler another Power Overwhelming, and for 12 mana, you would get to do 28 damage. So of course you would need Emperor Thorsan to hit at least one of those combo pieces. And that was all nice and good, but then Fr0zen came along and realized, wait, you don't actually need the burst. What's more important is to have something that sticks around, a huge unstoppable threat. Like Leroy Faceless is unstoppable because you just kill them, but due to all the warriors around, they actually had so much health that you wouldn't kill them. And what would have been better is a huge unstoppable threat. So here we enter the old god N'Zoth the Corruptor. So this RenoLock substitutes a lot of the old cards from other RenoLocks with Death Rattle cards. So the Death Rattle suite that this runs is N'Zoth the Corruptor, Cairn, Infested Tauren, Harvest Golem, and Possessed Villager. And those are 5 cards that you would not find in most Reno decks. Although now that Fr0zen did so well with this deck, you might see this quite a bit more. And maybe all the warriors running around, I think this is a big game changer, as it just defeats warriors so handily. Other than that, though, the basic concepts of this deck are it's kind of like a mid-range slash control warlock. You have early game plays you can do. You can play on curve. It's not that bad to tap on turn 2 and then play like a 3-drop and then play a big 4-drop. You can even do tap Mountain Giant if you're up against a control matchup, but certainly don't do that against an aggro matchup. In the late game, you'll have to think whether or not you're up against a aggressive deck or a control deck. If you're up against a control deck, you want to weave in a tap almost every turn. Say you have a 6-drop you could play, Cairn Bloodhoof. You perhaps don't do that, and then you play tap Infested Tauren instead. And then on turn 8, you play tap Cairn Bloodhoof. This deck doesn't seek to kill the opponent quickly, but getting a card advantage over time against the control matchup can be the key to victory. And of course, once you have had Cairn, Infested Tauren, Harvest Golem, Possessed Villager, and perhaps Sylvanas die, you play N'Zoth the Corruptor and you get tremendous value. So, the basics of the deck are, it's not a tempo deck, it's certainly not an aggressive deck. This is a control deck, it's a value deck. You're trying to play really efficient plays. You try to survive long enough with enough taps. Of course, there's only one of every card in the deck, so you can play Reno Jackson and then fully heal your hero at the end. You can become Lord Jaraxxus at the end, which is also an inevitable threat. But that's RenoLock. Let's get to the games. Thank you for subbing Pokeron and Irose Park. Hawk Rocks, rather.
Gul'dan versus Thrall.
For Doomhammer, your soul shall be
Even though this deck is geared to beat Warrior, that isn't to say it's a free loss against aggressive decks. Of course, you're going to see Shaman a lot, but thanks to the early game cards in this deck, like the Possessed Villager and the Harvest Golem, which are a little bit different from other RenoLock decks, it has a higher chance of surviving the onslaught. Not to mention it has good cards like Doomsayer and Imp Gang Boss early as well. I would have played Doomsayer if the Shaman had played any turn 1 play, but he didn't, so I will probably play it against his turn 3 play. Turn 2 coined 3-drop.
Did you bring some fish?
Although maybe I'll play Imp Gang Boss. Your Doomsayer is too unlikely to hit because he's likely got +2 damage. An unlucky roll of the totem for me.
It's getting hot in here.
That would have been really nice if it had actually hit my Imp King boss. He probably should have attacked first, and then played that.
Get in there and fight, maggot.
He's going hard. Yeah, so I have the Shadow Flame. I could also do this. I could also do this in Mortal Coil. I could also Defender of Argus and hit that. That seems reasonable. A lot of this deck actually ends up being also playing on curve. That might seem like a tempo thing to do, but with every deck you do need to keep the tempo, especially if your opponent is playing on tempo. You need to match them on tempo and keep playing things that are mana efficient. So much pain. Not that much pain. The coil will stop that, and then Infested Tauren will block that. Invested Torrent, a card that a lot of people laughed at, but it starts seeing play in quite a few of the N'Zoth decks, as a one of commonly. That's a big card there. Looks like it's gonna hit my face once, which is really bad for me. The choices are to play Emperor Thor0zen, or to play Stampeding Coda, or to play Mountain Giant. If I play Emperor Thor0zen, this is important too, you can calculate what you can do the next turn. So next turn, a Mountain Giant would cost 5, and Shadow Flame would cost 3, so that would be 8. Which is unfortunately not possible yet. But if I play the Stampeding Kodo, I will have no answer to that Faceless. So I think I'm forced to do a rather risky play, which means not removing this yet, just because it's not an immediate threat, but instead going for Thor0zen, and then possibly taking a huge chance that Ragnaros the Fire Lord is going to hit off this Flame Wreath Faceless. If I even survive. This is not looking good, not at all. However, I'll take the play that gives me some hope. And if he does hit the Thor0zen, then the Shadow Flame is going to be able to clear off a decent chunk of his board, or the Hellfire. Hellfire is looking awfully good here. Or even simply just hitting that thing. Oh, and then Hellfire. No. Hellfire, Earthen Ring. Now, the thing about the Hellfire is I would want to play the Doomsayer with it. Playing the Doomsayer on an empty board is very good because it buys you a turn. The question is whether or not he can kill me in a turn. Since he decided to hit that, I can surmise that he cannot. I'm going to actually do a kind of greedy play, which is tap here. And then Hellfire. Dropping myself down 5 and putting myself to 11. But then I'll have an empty board. This brings me closer to Lord Jaraxxus and to Reno Jackson. So this looks almost reckless because I dropped down so much health against a shaman. However, this will ultimately save me more health in the future because he's unable to play any cards on this turn, since they would just die to Doomsayer. And not saved. Unfortunate. But Reno Jackson would have pulled it through there. Refreshment Vendor might have pulled it through. Sun Fury Protector would have pulled it through. And this almost pulls it through if it had gotten discounted by Emperor Thor0zen. Wait, there's still a no, there's not. Wait, there is still a chance.
Eyes are open.
Oh. What a shame.
Well played. You win this time.
So they're drawing the Sun Fury or the Refreshment Vendor would have worked. But that was really close, and that was all because he happened to roll the Flame Tongue Totem that early, otherwise I could have played the Doomsayer early, and then had a nice and easy road, I think. Of course, he probably should have hit me in the face with the Flame Root Faceless. Oh, that's actually going to stay in the video, since it was a pretty decent demonstration. The tap was excellent.
Victory or death! Your soul shall be mine!
So here's the warrior matchup against every single warrior out there, be it Tempo Warrior, Dragon Warrior, Cthulhu Warrior, Nazoth Warrior, Control Warrior, whatever warrior it is. This deck tends to be pretty good because it comes down to the hero powers. Gaining 2 armor, or even gaining 4 armor, is completely irrelevant against this deck, whereas drawing a card is hugely relevant. And then late in the game, Lord Draxus comes in. When I said this deck is good against all warriors, perhaps the one exception is against Pirate Warrior, which is also an aggressive deck. So in this case, against pretty much every warrior except Pirate Warrior, you would want to tap, but against Pirate Warrior, you're gonna have to play for tempo. Interesting. And I just praised the hero power so much. However, this is a big card. I'm not gonna plan on playing it anytime soon. It's also because the other 2 cards are so bad. Maybe Corruption? I'll take Sir Finley. I won't play him for quite some time though. Strong start by that Pirate Warrior. Keep playing on curve. You can eventually drag out the games that they run out of steam. That commonly happens if you have the Reno Jackson. A lot of the games against aggressive decks end up being, alright, do you have Reno Jackson? If you do, you're in really good shape. If you don't, you're going to die. Perhaps. Fearsome start by the opponent. Then I should say, even though this is Pirate Warrior, which is probably the worst matchup of all the warriors, this is still favored for RenoLock, though in this position I'm not currently favored. What a monstrous rusty hook that is.
Blood and plunder.
Though this Hellfire is about to really do some work. Especially if he uses the 3-4 to kill that, but he didn't. If he had sent this into this, then I would have the board cleared. There's the taunt, so I couldn't unfortunately use that against anything.
For the life binder.
A lot of damage. Five on the board. Well, this is where if you have Reno Jackson, you just win since the opponent has 2 cards left. But unfortunately, I do not have Reno on this day. I will just play this and pray that he doesn't have 4 somehow. That seems to be the best chance.
Well played.
No. Leroy. Sadness. Okay, well, we won't put this one into the video.
versus Rexar.
Let the hunt begin. Your soul shall be mine.
Hunters currently are are like the later end of the mid-range deck. With most of them running 2 Savannah Hyman and Call of the Wild. This is going to be kind of he's a more aggressive mid-range deck. I'm a more controlling mid-range deck. Mid-range / control is my end. I almost think of Hunters as a control deck since they're trying to control the game until they get to high main and all the wild, and then they just do a lot of damage. Anyways, this is a good curve. The 2-drop, a 3-drop, and a 4-drop. The opponent didn't play anything on turn 2, which might indicate that he is a really control-heavy deck. Possibly not running Fiery Bat, but I will still keep the coil anyways. The most unusual play. This hunter might have forgotten I had a hunter. Well, if he used the spell that liberally, I have to think it's likely he's playing Lock and Load. Which is a control hunter deck. Though that may have been too early to play the Lock and Load. You only draw 2 cards. And to use the Hunter's Mark on kind of a minimal value minion. He drew the Deadly Shot off the Lock and Load. I thought he would have preferred to play the Deadly Shot against the Imp Gang boss and did not hold it. So this is where we get into the mid-late game against a control deck, quote-unquote, where tapping and then playing a card that is mana efficient after the tap is an excellent play. Even over if I had a solid 6-drop, which I could have coined and then played the 6-drop, tapping and then playing a card and being mana efficient is usually a better alternative. He's going all out control here. There's a minion on the board, it seems like he's just gonna remove it. One of the things you can do with this deck is to life tap and then play the Mountain Giant. Nice discount. And as long as I find my Reno Jackson or well, I actually have Sun Fury Protector, so that'll be in play to taunt against Call of the Wild already. Hunter's Mark. Another on the hunt. Another Mortal Coil. I'll probably Twisting Nether when he does his Call of the Wild, and I'm completely expecting on turn 8. I'm just gonna keep my plan on. Here's where Tap Refreshment Vendor is a fine play. It just happens that I have all the cards in the hand already. I'm actually going to do Refreshment Vendor, Coin, or... The Coin can be a really powerful card to keep. Against really heavy control decks, you should think of the Coin as a 6/6, because you can play Lord Jaraxxus and then Coin Inferno. Of course, if you play Emperor Thorstein on Lord Jaraxxus, you can also do that.
I wonder.
Hunters do not have very many board clears. Well, and there's the Reno Jackson, which means I'm completely safe and I can just tap and then play a card each turn. It's all easy from here against control decks. You can pretty much autopilot, tap and then play a card. Just have to make sure not to go into fatigue before they do, in the case that they've managed to deal with all your threats somehow. But that's unlikely because of the inevitability that Lord Jaraxxus offers, as well as N'Zoth. I'm saving the ooze for his weapon.
Pay up.
Since hunters have this hero power and some amount of burst, I don't think I will play Jaraxxus this game. It's important to know what your safe health points are against a lot of different classes. Against almost every other class, Jaraxxus would be an excellent play here. And even here, Jaraxxus is a fine play. And if I play Jaraxxus, I would probably win. In fact, I might just play it because I'm mana efficient and you just took me down too with that explosive trap. And I have the Reno Jackson, and I have taunts. Yeah, Jaraxxus. Although if I had Emperor Thor-Zen in my hand, I would have been more tempted to play the Emperor Thor-Zen first, and then play a discounted Jaraxxus, and then Inferno. So it looks like Demon Wrath and Clear, and then Reno Jackson is pretty solid here. There's a surprising amount of times where you can attack with Reno, or attack with, say, Jaraxxus and then heal with Reno. It'll happen. And you want to press the Inferno button each turn, but it looked like that was the last thing the opponent was going to do. Okay, one more Call of the Wild. Fine. Alright, I have 11 damage. The wall will soon be up, and then the most he can realistically burst through is Kill Command plus Hero Power.
I wonder.
Shadow Bolt, Inferno, Defender of Argus. And they'll also clear that. Of course, don't hit the boar, even though it's a enabler for Kill Command, because that causes the hero to take 4. If the opponent had had more cards in their hand, I would not have played Lord Jaraxxus. But it looks like even with the most extreme of things, and there's a last minute Hail Mary Yogg-Saron here. It looks like that Huffer is attacking. It's kind of scary, but I'm sure that's just a typo. Everything is damaged. Ouch. He was just checking to see whether he could attack the face or not, but obviously he can't. Do I have lethal here? I should have it.
Into the breach.
7, 10, 14 if Defender of Argus gets returned. Not like I can do anything about that.
Into the breach.
If there's a bear that comes on, then that's 5, 12, 16, which is going to be 2 off.
Into the
alright.
breach.
Okay, and that's good enough. If I press this button, I might die to Dart Trap. That could have actually been misdirection, in which case I probably should have played some cards first. Anyways, turns out that playing Lord Draxus there was on the fringe of safe. He did happen to have exactly 2 Call of the Wilds, which is about the most damage you can do with the card, with the hero power too. And thank you, Bill Curtis, for the donation. Bill says, always appreciate the analytical approach you bring, and commentary is always good for a laugh. But do I look like a comedian to you? Do I make you laugh? Am I like a clown? Do you go, ha-ha, when I talk?
Gul'dan versus Malfurion. I must protect the wild.
Your soul shall
Alright, I'll probably have the next video idea be against the Warriors, since one of the main reasons to play this deck is against the Warriors. Trump teachings mode off. Kinda chill. See, I'm a little afraid to play that just because you could play the Cthulhu card and then perfectly kill my 3-2, so I'll just tap. I'll just tap. Hey, tap Mountain Giant. It's pretty good against Druid. I hope I get Tyrion from the mulch. Would be nice.
the ancient one calls.
6 mana, 5/7. 4 mana, 8/8. Wow. Okay, I actually have enough big stuff in the deck that I'm not going to tap here. I'll just go Ooze, Peddler, 1-drop probably.
Buying or selling.
Oh. It's so tempting. But the Possessed Villager is perfect curve and I have an Azoth. Sorry, Shifter Zeros, I have to pick the 1 mana 1/1 over you. Despair. It's perfect for the curve. He doesn't have Cthulhu in his deck, so he's just big stuff. Maybe an Astral Communion deck. This Tyrion, well, I mean, it would have just turned into Tyrion this turn. I'd be like, oh, Shifter Zeros, you're such a tease. Unfortunate for him. Okay, so I could play Demon Wrath to deal my 2, or I could play Defender of Argus to deal my 2. If I play Demon Wrath, I can end up playing another card, Freshman Vendor. Furthermore, it seems like Demon Wrath will be pretty pointless against this deck. It's just big stuff.
Get your final case here.
Mr. BGH? Rosaris? Hmm.
My shield for Archer.
I have to make sure to play around Deathwing a little bit. Alright, so far I've had Cairn die and I've had Harvest. No, not Harvest. Possessed Villager die. Oh, cool. It's cool, Druid of the Claw. Be cool. Too cool, Druid of the Claw?
Where shall
Wow. We're so cool. Shadow Flame the 4/2 into Mortal Oil. Yeah, that seems good.
So many
But this first.
possibilities.
It's a little wasteful, but good enough. I would have liked to take a slightly more greedy approach, like Coil a 4/1. Then I wouldn't deal with Fandral, which might be bad. Few different Raven Idols. Okay. That was not very impressive.
I can see.
Gul'dan versus Garrosh.
victory or death?
Alright, I got a warrior, and that is a big reason to play RenoLock. Want to end the video on a warrior victory. Pirate warrior, tempo warrior, control warrior, N'Zoth warrior, Cthulhu warrior, combo warrior, doesn't matter what type of warrior it is. RenoLock is favored against them all because of life tap. This is a matchup where, unless it's super aggressive, where in this case I kept Doomsayer, it's the classic tap, play a threat, and then eventually they run out of cards game. It's like, they're gaining 2 armor? I'm drawing a card. Note that it would probably be incorrect to play any 2-drop here, even Dark Peddler, because on turn 4, you can tap and then play Dark Peddler. Of course, at some point in the game, your hand is going to be so big that you will be forced to play cards. In which case, you should then play on curve. Like on 3, I'll probably play Possessed, or I'll play Imp Game Boss. Over Possessed Villager tap, since I will run out of a hand. This is one of the matchups where the coin is the most valuable, because this game will go to turn 10, especially if the opponent has armored up twice already. The goal of this matchup is usually to have 8 cards in your hand and then tap play a card, or 9 cards in your hand, tap play a card. Having 8 cards in your hand and then tap play a card is more flexible because it means you are not forced to play a card the next turn without tapping. I will tap and play a card. Possessed Villager in this case. I could even tap and play Doomsayer. But no, in this case, the board is even enough that I don't want to. The next turn I will probably be playing Coin Cairn or Kodo if a good target appears. Earthen Ring Farseer tap is the natural state of the play, but my hand is too full. Following the lines of the first best play is usually tap, play a card. Second best play is spend all your mana on usually one big card. These are just rules of thumb.
What now?
The general plan around here is this is really good against Divine Shield. If he sends that against that, I have 2 1/1s I can kill before too. Here the Kodo is obviously really good against the Acolyte. It looks like I'm just gonna go Kodo into Cairn. Warriors are very sad when you take away their ability to draw. That is probably the best Kodo target in the game. In the deck, in this matchup. Even better than Bloodhoof Brave.
Welcome to the Grand Tournament, champion.
Against Warrior, you really don't even mind if they have tank up, since they could have infinite health. It doesn't matter, you'll eventually win. Well, okay, if they have infinite health, you would eventually fatigue. But if they have 500 health, you would still probably eventually win with Lord Jaraxxus's Infernos. So this game is, the way this game kind of flows is a general inevitability almost, or RenoLock. There's so many different ways to win, between eventually winning with Lord Jaraxxus, to N'Zoth if he has no brawls left, to just big cards overwhelming him. You even have a Spellbreaker in the deck to deal with Sylvanas. Fortunately, I don't have it here.
I wonder.
But what could be nice... Here's like a classic first world problem with this deck. You have too many cards and you can't tap. I'm gonna actually throw the Earthen Ring Farce here and then tap, which will give me 2 mana remaining. No, I'm not going to do that.
Out of time.
I will just play the Earthen Ring Farce here and pass. There's some small advantage to him having Sylvanas out. And that is, I can kill it and immediately play Doomsayer if you play something scary. There's plenty of time in this game left that even if he does clear the board and then kills off his own Sylvanas with, say, Slam, and then steals my Cairn, that's not too bad. Which was a possibility that I was ready for. Well, it looks like he's just gonna steal a 4/5. With RenoLock, you have to just kind of stay calm and play on. Especially when you have answers to a wide variety of problems. Like this hand had a active threat, Ragnaros. It has an AoE, Twisting Nether. It has Catch Up, Reno Jackson. It has the endgame big threat in Azoth. And then it has like some random cards out there which aren't very good. And then it has tap to draw into more useful cards. Sure, the opponent can be very efficient, shield slam your big guy for 1 mana, but they can only have so many of those. Eventually your tapping will lead to victory. Here I'm going to play Refreshment Vendor over Infested Tauren. I do have the N'Zoth, but I'm not going to be playing the N'Zoth anytime soon. I want the Harvest Golem to also die first, and also perhaps Sylvanas. And also I want to draw Brawls first, so it's actually going to be a very long time before I play N'Zoth. So I'm waiting for a better spot to play Infested Tauren, since that Fire War X goes perfectly into Tauren, whereas this 5 health guy, there's nothing that goes well into it. This is a matchup where if you are completely careless with your tapping, you can actually go way deeper into fatigue and then surprisingly lose. That usually happens if your Lord Jaraxxus is near the bottom. I mean, that's not a common occurrence, but that's something that can creep up, where the opponent has something, say, like Gorehowl, and then actually deals with like 7 of your threats. That's a possibility. However, more realistic is you play a Jaraxxus Coin Inferno and then you win. However, that's actually very tempting here. The most this deck can burst for... Well, actually, I should draw the ooze first. It's tempting, just not necessarily good. I'm gonna play that and then Demon Wrath, and I'll tap and then hopefully draw an ooze.
Pay up.
The answers are in the deck, you just have to get them eventually. Usually tapping first is correct, of course, but the hand is full. One thing worth remembering is the opponent's Cthulhu number. He's only played one Cthulhu card so far, so it would be an 8/8. So if I had played Jiraxis, then the best he could probably do is play Cthulhu and then have 7 attack plus an 8 Cthulhu, plus I'd have an Inferno on the board. Interesting that he saved that, even not even killing the Tauren. Well, now I can safely play Jirax's Coin Inferno. However, I do want to tap into Ooze first. Perhaps I play Reno Jackson kind of as a tempo Reno.
So
It is going to be a tempo Reno in this case. I don't anticipate myself ever dropping to a seriously low amount of health. Just so I can tap? Perhaps I would play... No. This is kind of a problem in that my entire hand is situational cards, and looking at the rest of the deck has a lot of good stuff in it. Active threats I could play. I just happen to currently not have any of it. Really awkward. I also don't want to taunt Reno Jackson because that's a 7. This is really annoying. I'll just play Reno and attack. The problem of having too many cards in the hand, it's unlucky that I have this particular assortment of all reactive cards. I mean, usually I'll have a pretty big hand of a lot of reactive cards, though. This comes back to like knowing how to play Reno as well. Reno Jackson, this matchup does not depend on health at all, and in fact, it's entirely possible that I will play Lord Jirax's Coin Inferno the next turn. Well, no, not while he has the weapon there, but the point is. The point is, someday I'm gonna get Acidic Swamp Ooze, and then I'll play Lord Jiraxis when I'm at 30, and that's perfectly fine. So annoying that he somehow doesn't have anything to play. I'm going to do it just because I don't have an alternative. You also have to consider that sometimes they have Harrison Jones, and then they'll draw 7 cards off your Jiraxis. That's perhaps even still okay, because I have all the answers. I have a big card kill. I would not do this unless I literally had no other play. And, well, not literally, but I basically don't have any other play. I'm behind a taunt. I'm safe enough. I have this taunt. I have a hard kill. I have another hard kill. I have Coined Inferno. It's game. Enough. It's tempting to tap into the ooze, and that would have been the best play had I had a hand which I could throw some of the cards in. Now I simply summon a 6/6 Inferno each turn. He can't possibly come up with an answer each turn. And I'm safe enough behind that Infested Tauren and the Defender of Argus. If the Sun Fury Protector were there instead of Defender of Argus, this play is also good, but it requires that you have a taunt, because otherwise that Gorehowl poses a serious threat.
who knows what secrets will uncover?
Cthulhu! Cthulhu! Cthulhu!
It was
Your fault. My best draw is clearly going to be Ooze here. But even with no draws whatsoever, this still looks like a pretty solid winning position. And Coil is actually the best draw. Coil into an Ooze.
How much?
So there's something to be said here about deck knowledge. It is possible for the opponent to play Gromish and then burst me for 10. And that's 6, that would be lethal, and I didn't play a taunt. However, given that that's a Cthulhu deck, it is extremely unlikely for him to be running Gromish. So I decided not to play the taunt. Having a taunt is really important for when you are almost dead and they need to break through. So you have to ration it very carefully. You have to think, can I die? And the answer here, I say, is no. I don't think I can die. Not to a realistic card.
Caffeine shelters us.
Give in to your fear.
I'm still waiting for the brawl so I can play the N'Zoth.
Buying or selling.
Dragon Egg. It's not this selection is terrible. Siphon Soul on this card's pretty decent. However, I could also just send in these 2 minions. Which is actually good enough. That will save the card. The Blood Imp is arguably even bad to play, because if he plays Brawl, the Blood Imp could win, which would be bad. So it looks good enough as is. Eventually, and it seems to me like that Warrior's running out of answers, they have to use the Brawl as an answer. And after the Brawl, I'll play N'Zoth. And maybe he has another Brawl. And then after that Brawl, I summon Infernos, and then he'll die eventually. It just ends up being that Cthulhu deck doesn't have an answer. And eventually I was going to draw this Ooze. Finally it's here. Like, I can get a very favorable trade by Defender of Argusing that and then hitting him. But more important is to save that Defender of Argus for post-Brawl world, where I might need a taunt. Like, yeah, you can gain 4 armor a turn, but I'm pressing a button getting a 6/6. It's an inevitable win. Slowly but surely. You just have to not die to something random. And Gromish is something random, but it is so out there that I just didn't think it was possible.
Do you have the artifact?
Cthulhu needs mine.
I have 24 damage. I have 26. This is actually lethal. Oh no, I can armor up. But not yet. We'll just take it nice and easy. So. Wait, no, I have enough. Now I'm 1 short. 3, 5, 6, 12, 14, 17, 20, 24, 26, 29. He's at 30. Any clever way to get an additional damage? I don't see it. No, we just take it easy. He's in an even worse spot than he was last time. And this also kind of demonstrates the amount of restraint you can have. Now, I'll also even further demonstrate one thing. You might feel tempted to play a card. Sometimes it is correct not to play a card because the rest of your cards in your deck aren't very important. And any card that I play right now actually actively hurt my position. Not actively hurt, but they make it more painful to get brawled. Blood Imp is arguably the right play. The only card I would be sad to lose is Twilight Drake. And besides, you can be an evil, you can roleplay as an evil person and be like, oh, I don't need any of my cards to win, all I need to do is press this button. And herein you see the inevitability of this game. Since the beginning of the game, and it certainly looks weird to have predicted that it would go this way on turn 1, but there you have it. It's just inevitable that it would happen. The natural state of things say that this will happen. And I think I might have had lethal, it doesn't really matter though. I probably didn't. So that's why this matchup is so good. You eventually win. Should you have the patience and the courage and the restraint. And well played. And that's RenoLock. Good deck.